everyone to this episode of Let's Talk Parks. I'm Lakita Frazier, your host for today, and I'm truly excited about this opportunity to welcome Lisa Paradis to the conversation. Hey, Lisa.
Oh, hey, Lakita. Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. And so I'm really excited because, guys, today what we're talking about is something that's near and dear to our hearts. And July is National Parks and Recreation Month. And this year's theme is Where You Belong. And it celebrates the many ways as parks and recreation professionals across this country foster a sense of belonging in their community. So I want to go ahead and be transparent. I currently serve on the board of directors for the National Recreation and Parks Association, and Lisa serves on the Business Council. And so we are really invested and excited about July, aren't we, Lisa?
Oh, we sure are. Yeah, this is my favorite month.
And we've been in the field for a while. And so when I first saw this thing, guys, I immediately thought of Lisa because Lisa did a session at the first Women in Parks and Recreation Leadership Summit. And her session was about You Belong. So for us, looking at who's next and who's going to be on Let's Talk Parks, Lisa, it was a natural recommendation for you. So let's talk a little bit about belonging. And then when we look at where you belong and the whole sense of belonging, what are your thoughts about that in Parks and Recreation?
Oh, what a great question, Lakita, and a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. And I will use the Women in Parks and Recreation session that I presented at to kind of use as a launching pad, because that theme really was about women and how oftentimes we, for whatever reason, and we talked a lot in detail about belonging in a room in the world that we are professionals in. But this is a great jumping off scenario to kind of take that lens back and look at parks and recreation as the platform, truly the universal and broad platform for belonging. It is what started communities being communities. I mean, it goes all the way back to my hometown, Boston, Massachusetts, having the first public park in America. I think it was 1638. I'm sure someone will correct me on that. It was in the 1630s, I think. But the reason for that park to be built was because first, people wanted to bring their animals there, and they needed a green space to bring animals. But secondly, it became a place for communion. It became a place for relationship building. It became a place for people to find their tribe. And from there, the world of parks and recreation has just, as you know, exploded, obviously, in the last 300, 400 years. And our parks and recreations look much different, and our people look much different. But the main theme, the main foundation for the world of parks and recreation is that theme of belonging, the theme of community, the theme of finding your tribe, and that theme of it all being accessible to everybody on an equal level.
Yes, when we look at recreation, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Creating those spaces where we are able to build meaningful connections. And so why do you think we as parks and recreation professionals are in that unique space of providing that accessibility and belonging?
Yeah, well, I think that in general, and I would say it's probably more than in general, because I've been doing I've been in the world of parks and recreation for a long time, 30 years now. And the people that I've met, the professionals that I've come in contact with to a person, are those people who are truly invested in the work that they do in the public sector. They are people who are servant leaders. They're people who are connected to the people in their communities, and they're offering a social service because from the baseline, their why, whenever I ask this question, their why is always because they want to make communities better. They want to lead people to healthier, lives. They want to lead people to better community living. They want to lead people to their best lives within their communities. And I think that we're all connected on that level because we share a why. And the world of Parks and Recreation allows you to express that why in a way that both gives back to the community and nurtures your soul as a professional.
Wow. Because our field, you talked about how we are in this space and a lot of us share that same why. And we often, when we were in the public sector, and we even see on this side, how sometimes it's hard to make sure that our services in recreation and parks are seen as essential and are recognized as building those places of belonging. So what recommendations would you have to professionals that they know their why and they're working out in our communities and are building the spaces? How do they ensure that they are comfortable with that belonging, with walking into spaces and standing on the fact that recreation and parks is essential, and sometimes being uncomfortable in those spaces? How do we help people build that feeling of belonging when sometimes they feel like they're imposters in some of these spaces?
Yeah, boy, great question too. I have put a lot of thought to this as a young professional many years ago, and then as a developing professional over the years, and then now as a person who can tell the stories about the young and the developing professional. And one of the things I think about was when I was younger and taking there was a group of students that got together to talk about their work in the business world. And I was with those students, and I took my mom to a beautiful opening at a beautiful place in Boston, downtown Boston. And there were a lot of other business students around who were talking about their jobs in banking and their jobs in the financial sector. And to one of the people who asked me what I did, I used the bad words. I said, I'm just a park and recreation director at the time. And if my mom could have, she would have taken me by the ear, pulled me aside, but she did not do that. Later on, she said to me, Lisa, don't you ever diminish the work that you do in the profession that you are attached to by saying the words, you're not just a anything. You move mountains, you make things happen, you change people's lives. And from there on, I know it sounds like a really dramatic and kind of, a movie-like kind of thing. But from there on, I really did metaphorically and realistically stop using those words of I'm just a. And I do truly believe that the world of park and recreation in which we live and the professionals that are hopefully listening today are not just a. We are everything that makes communities tick. We are essential in so many different ways. I think one of the things that we saw very loud and clear was the impact that we had during the pandemic. And I think it's incumbent upon us to use that momentum and leverage that momentum and that understanding from the general public that we are essential to creating and living in and sustaining great communities.
Wow. I couldn't have said it any better. We belong. So thank you, Lisa, for taking the time out today to join me on Let's Talk Park. We are excited about National Recreation and Parks Month, and we wish our listeners a great month of celebration. And as Lisa has reminded us today, we belong in the communities. We build those spaces and those connections. Thank you, Lisa. Have a great day, everyone, and let's keep talking parks.